What are the keys to the game, and what's the path to victory for TCU tomorrow night? We'll talk about it next here on Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are also free and available wherever it is you get your podcast. TCU takes on Utah. Frogs are 3-3, looking to get to 4-3. As I think really a realistic goal for this team at this point is find a way to make a bowl game. And I don't know where you're at personally as a fan. You might be of the opinion of like, I don't know. Maybe you're in a space where you say to yourself, I'd rather things get kind of more out of hand so it's clearer that potentially changes need to be made. But if we're talking about what can this team do realistically, I feel like 6-6 is a good goal to have. That's not what I would have guessed before the season. And I would say it's fair to be disappointed in that. But given how the first 6 games have gone, if you get there, I think you say, okay, maybe we run this back for one more year and see what you can do moving forward. But you start with the game against Utah at 9:30 Central Time tomorrow night. And, I mean, I'm going to shoot you guys straight. I think this is a tough matchup for TCU. I do feel like there's a path to victory, though, for the Frogs. And we'll start with our keys to the game. I was talking with JT Wistersill, and I saw one of our listeners chimed in and was like, does this guy ever take a breath? Man, he does get after it. Like, he's very, here we go. Here's the whole explanation. And he talks very fast. He's very passionate. And he's very confident in this Utah team, even as they've sort of suffered over the last couple of weeks with the QB issues. But I was talking to him off the air, and I hope he won't mind me sharing this. He was basically like, yeah, things haven't gone as planned. The loss to Arizona State was tough. Cam Rising was banged up. But he said if they lose to TCU at home, in his mind, that would be a different type of loss. That would be like, all right, some alarm bells are getting set off within the program, which I guess that didn't shock me because I imagine the fan base is looking at TCU right now and they're coming off a loss to Houston at home. So even with the backup quarterback, they probably feel like that's a game that they should win. They're 4.5-point favorites at home, which honestly isn't that much. Home field advantage means a lot in college football, especially in a good environment like Utah. When you talk about the betting market, I remember last year before the BYU game, Jacob Langford was like, why is TCU favored in this game? Josh Hoover was making his first career start. BYU was also hovering around 500, but they had looked like a good team at times. And the honest truth is, if you're a home dog, like, you're really struggling because that means a lot as far as when they set these lines and how they decide favorites in the betting market. But FanDuel has Utah's 4.5-point favorites at home with a backup QB. And we'll see how it plays out. But it was kind of jarring to me, like, oh man, that's where people kind of think this program is right now. Like, they feel like this should be a win in a game where they come in and take care of business and get a victory. And if they don't, then it's kind of a low point watermark for where they're at under Kyle Whittingham at the moment. Your keys to the ball game. And I've said this a couple times. I've kind of worn myself out saying it. It feels like it's a hallmark of the Coach Dykes era right now. You got to find a way to get out to a quick start. If I'm TCU and I win the toss tomorrow, I'm taking the ball. And I'm hoping that you can execute a good scripted drive, go down, score a touchdown, take an early lead. Because I believe the way to win, even with Utah's limitations on offense, they can run the ball with Mekhi Bernard. And TCU has not shown an ability to slow down the run game so far this season. Their coaching staff is smart. I imagine they're going to keep the ball on the ground a lot. So I think there's a potential for them to have success on that side of the ball, which means I feel like one of the keys is you have to put pressure on them to score consistently. Don't allow them to win this game 27-14 or 30-21. force them to put up over 30 points to win the ball game. And to do that, you're going to have to score. Nobody scored over 30 points on on Utah all year long. So it's a tall task. It's especially a tall task when you struggle to run the ball. But I think that's the way you win the game, is by forcing Isaac Wilson to make plays and not allowing them to get out to an early lead and control the pace of the game and just sit on the football and be efficient and go down and churn out drives. Also, I do think there's a mental aspect. We talk about playing complementary football. That means all three phases are helping each other out. So offensively, you're hopefully controlling the clock a little bit and scoring points. Defensively, you're getting stops, giving the offense opportunities to go down and score. And then special teams, you're getting the points when you're asked to. And whether it's in the return game or in the coverage game, you're putting the other team in bad field position. You're giving yourself plus field position opportunities. I also think when the offense is cooking, it helps out the TCU defense. Not from a personnel standpoint, not from a schematic standpoint, but I think it just allows them to play freer and play better. In that UCF game in the first half, they got a few stops. Now, they were able to block a few field goals, but they got stops in the red zone. And I would even take that right now. As much as they've struggled as of late, I think forcing field goals could be a positive if the offense is doing what they're supposed to do. And then in the second half, when the offense started to stall out, all of a sudden the defense was also struggling to hold up their end of the bargain. In the KU game, on the flip side of that, defense kind of got off to a slow start, but to the TCU offense's credit, they scored a couple touchdowns on their first few drives, tied the game up at 14, and they were able to hang around and allow this defense to kind of get their feet under them. And as the game played out, when the defense was called upon to get some big stops, they were able to do it. So I think from a mentality standpoint, just getting off to a good start and putting points on the board will help this team immensely. In that Houston game, I'll talk about forcing turnovers more in depth in a minute, but you always want to play like, oh, well, what if this happens? That can be a dangerous game because you never know how games are going to play out. But if Abe Kamara, when he comes up and just sticks the Houston running back, I think the score was either 0-0 or 3-0 at that point. I guess it was 0-0 because Houston scored a touchdown to go up 7-0. But when he, stuck that running back and forced a fourth down, that ball also popped loose. If TCU is able to jump on that ball and there's no targeting penalty, then, all right, you get 2 stops to start the ball game. Offense gets out there and maybe they get in a better rhythm. And then how does the game play out differently? If you can just get off to a good start and sort of take this crowd out of it, put some pressure on the Utah offense to go score, that would be massive. So first off is play well at the beginning of this ball game. Can you get a lead early? Can you find a way to not put so much pressure on your defense to keep you in the game in the first half by having your offense in rhythm? Secondly, what's the big changes after the bye week? You had a chance to regroup. You're coming off a horrible loss. Is it schematically? Are there going to be some wrinkles in the run game that allow you to get some cheap yards that way? Some personnel changes? Or is it just attitude or effort? I think playing armchair psychologist when we're talking about a football team is a fool's errand. And I don't love to try to diagnose the group from afar because I think there's too much stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we just don't know about. I don't know if this team just comes out flat or if they're pressing too much. But for whatever reason, there's a disconnect. And we make a joke about it. But there's a disconnect between practice during the week and then what's actually happening on the field on Saturdays. So maybe that's the big change. But something has to improve, right? It can't just be like, oh, we worked on the fundamentals, we're executing better, and that's going to bring us to a level where we're winning games like this. There have to be some new things thrown out there. And I really feel like this is a game where, hey, try a lot of different things. You're on the road. You're an underdog. Your season's not going as planned. Give Hoss Haney some more reps. Throw some different trick plays out there. Throw some different coverages at this Utah team. Do something that sort of changes the rhythm and the process of how this has gone so far, because what you're doing currently doesn't seem to be working. And I mean, what's really the risk, right? Like if you give up some big plays on defense, well, you're doing that already. So you can get back in your base stuff if it comes down to it, but try some new things. Rotate your corners a little bit more. Give Isaac Wilson some different. Try to confuse him as a true freshman quarterback who's gotten reps this week and is preparing to be the starter, but still is early in his career. And then finally, can you force turnovers and get negative plays on defense? Isaac Wilson's thrown 7 interceptions. He's been sacked 8 times. He's thrown 6 touchdown passes. He can move around a little bit. He can run at times when he has to, but he's been turnover prone. This defense has not forced turnovers. Something's got to give on Saturday night. Either he's going to play a clean game, or can TCU bait him into some bad decisions and then make those plays when they have to. If they do, then, hey, you give yourself an opportunity. Give yourself a chance. In our next segment, I'll talk about how important I think this game is, and when we talk about like big picture stuff as far as the hot seat and all those things. But bottom line, go out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win this game. I don't think the talent disparity is so lopsided that you can't find a way to win. Now, what I'm worried about is just, as I'm worried about a lot of weeks, but especially against this Utah team, the trenches. Are you going to be able to hold up front on the offensive defensive line enough that you allow your skilled players on offense to go make plays, and that you can put them in obvious passing situations, force the Utah offense to do things that they're uncomfortable with, and possibly get some turnovers through the air? Because if you do those things, then I think you got a good shot to keep this close and possibly come out and win it. So we'll see on Saturday night, TCU Utah. I'll give my official prediction next, and I'll talk more about what this game could mean for TCU moving forward. It's Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team. We do it here every day. One of our new sponsors is Hims. You can go to hims.com/lockedon to start your free trial today. Hims is there for men's health, whether it's weight loss, hair loss, or if you need some help in the bedroom, Hims can help you. They're changing men's health care by giving you affordable access to treatments from the comfort of your couch. It's totally online. The doctor's visits are, so there's no need for uncomfortable in-person doctor's visits. You just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you for free. Start your free trial online today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. They have all kinds of products, and they're changing men's healthcare. You can do it online from your couch. hims.com/lockedon. So, yeah, big game this week. I don't really know. I mean, I think obviously losing on the road to Utah is not in a vacuum a bad loss. Before the season, this was the one game I sort of circled on the schedule and was like, I don't know about this. I think there's a lot of things that don't play in TCU's favor. But that being said, it's a little bit of a different situation now, even though this group is struggling so much. Utah is down at the quarterback position. And we can debate, like, would a banged-up Cam Rising give TCU a better chance to win? Based on the way he played last week against Arizona State, maybe. But you're still facing a true freshman in Isaac Wilson, which should help your defense out. And the Utah defense has been solid this year, as they always are. But they give up some plays through the air. I think the real key, as JT Wistershall said yesterday, is TCU's probably going to be able to move the ball. Can you finish drives and score touchdowns? And to the Frogs' credit, they've been good at that this year. They've really improved their red zone woes after struggling so much last season in those situations. But fans are smart. Like, I think you guys understand where this team is. And really what fans want is they just want the team to play to its potential. So whatever this group can do, just get the best out of them. Can TCU go beat Utah tomorrow? I think they can. I don't know if they will. The main thing is, are you going to be competitive? Do you see a team that looks like they're laying it all out there and playing with great effort and playing with some desperation of like, man, we're coming off a week off. We have an opportunity to get a big win on the road. Let's go do it. Let's leave it all on the field. If you see that, I think regardless of the result, as long as it's relatively close, you can leave encouraged. If you don't, then I think the talk of what do we do moving forward continues. Because, I mean, the biggest concern, alarm bell, whatever you want to call it, for me right now, is it just feels like Sonny doesn't have a great read on his football team and what they're going to do week to week. I said after the Houston game, I was like, the only thing I can really predict is that this team is unpredictable. And I hate to throw up my hands like that, but it's every Saturday or Friday night, I feel like I get a different team almost. There have been some things that have been pretty constant. They're not running the ball super well. They don't stop the run well. But how well they're going to execute and the things they do excel at, it's sort of week to week what that's going to look like. So just some more consistency could help. And again, a lot of that comes back to physicality and being able to have solid players at some positions that you don't right now. But I still think they're better than they showed Friday night, obviously, against Houston. How much better? I don't know. And the other question is, do they believe that? And are they still buying into what this coaching staff is selling them? After that UCF game, Josh Hoover gave this really impassioned speech, and I thought, man, it looks like this team is locked in. Maybe this is the type of loss that if you're spinning things optimistically, like that's the type of loss that can really propel you throughout the rest of the season as, hey, this is motivation. We saw what happened when we sort of took our foot off the gas and allowed another team to get back into it, didn't make plays when we had to. We ended up blowing a game we should have won. But then they go out the next week and they just get destroyed by SMU, and you blink and it's 17-0, and you're like, well, doesn't feel like you guys learned a lot, right? And they get a good win against Kansas, and then they come back the next week and they just lay an egg at home against Houston. So it's such a Jekyll and Hyde situation right now. I wouldn't be surprised by much of anything. But one thing I do know, if you want to listen to yesterday's show, you can check that out. It's available on YouTube and the podcast platforms. And then on early Sunday morning, I guess, most likely, I'll have a post-game show, live post-game show. So if you want to tune in and listen or watch, you can do that. We'll be right here on the YouTube channel breaking it down, and then the audio will be up shortly afterwards. We'll talk about win or lose, where this team is, and what they can do moving forward. My prediction for Saturday night, I think TCU keeps the game close. I just can't get out of my head. I don't know how they're going to slow down Mekhi Bernard and the Utah offensive line. And I think they're going to have some empty possessions against this Utah defense. I feel like they can have some success, but I'm just not sure they'll get enough points to push it over the top and get a victory. So my prediction right now is Utah wins 27-21. I hope I'm wrong. And the good news for everybody listening and watching is I've been wrong a lot this year. So, maybe it's a good luck that I'm picking against them, because hopefully they'll come out there and surprise all of us and get a victory. But give me your predictions in the YouTube comments, or you can tweet at me at SimcockSteven. TCU and Utah tomorrow night. We'll take a break. We'll come back with a little basketball talk and some audience reaction. That's next year on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Thank you. Wrong overlay there. That's the wrong overlay too. If you're watching the YouTube broadcast, you're having some fun right now. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. We appreciate FanDuel. They've been rolling with us since I started here on the Locked On Network 4 years ago. They've been very loyal. Again, I said TCU 4.5-point dogs on FanDuel. The over-under for this game is 49.5. There's plenty of college football games on the app that you can bet on. Also, NFL, Major League Baseball playoffs. That was a great game between the Guardians and the Yankees last night. Guardians get a victory to make that a 2-1 series in favor of the Yankees right now. Game 4 coming up, I guess tonight on Friday night, which would be fun. But FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app, one $5 bet gets you $200 in bonus bets. That's one $5 bet. You can get $200 in bonus bets, or you can play around with FanDuel's money. So do that today. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. Official betting partner of the National Football League and a proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. So on yesterday's episode, or maybe it was 2 days ago, Frog fan asked me on YouTube, he's like, hey, when does college basketball or college shoot start getting a segment? And I'll do some more coverage as we get closer to the season. Usually it'll be in segment 3. I'll do some reaction shows. Probably won't be after every game, but I'll try to do some post-game shows where we just go live and talk about what happened that night in hoops. I'm excited about this TCU men's basketball team. They get Arkansas in an exhibition game. John Calipari's Arkansas Razorbacks. That's on November 1st. And that's open to the public at Dickies Arena. So you can go check that out, see how the team looks. That's in a couple Fridays from now. Season opener November 4th against Florida A&M. The rest of their non-conference slate: Florida Gulf Coast, Texas State, Michigan on the road, Alcorn State at home, Santa Clara, and then Colorado State or Washington in the tournament. Xavier at home, Vandy at home, South Alabama, Montana State, and then conference play will start. So your typical, I would say this is a little atypical for the way Jamie's scheduled in the past. There's obviously your good number of cupcakes there, but there's also a game against Michigan on the road and home game against Xavier and Vandy, a tournament situation where they'll probably play another Power 5 school. So I think all that's positive. The roster itself, again, a lot of transfers. Some of the big names that came over, Frankie Collins, point guard, probably your starting point guard from Arizona State. He also spent some time at Michigan. Trezarian White, who's going to be kind of filling the Emmanuel Miller role for the year before. He was at UNC Wilmington and had a really good year there. Noah Reynolds, sharpshooter from Green Bay. RJ Jones from Kansas State, who didn't play a lot for the Cats, but was known as a dude who could fill it up in high school. Vashawn Alette from Old Dominion, who also a dude that could fill it up. Had 30-plus points in a game against TCU last season. Brendan Wenzel from Wyoming, kind of a combo guard forward type player, 6'8", good size. And then a couple of young guys that they like, Isaiah Manning and Jace Posey, 2 players that redshirted last year and will be asked to have a bigger role. And a big-time freshman class, David Punch, Micah Robinson, Ernest Uday's coming back. He's not a freshman. He'll be back this year. And Micah Robinson's a guy. So Parker Ainsworth, who does Locked On Cougs, he's also a high school basketball coach in the Metroplex. And he was like, this dude can play. Like he thinks he's going to be in the rotation from the jump. So we'll see. I mean, they've invested more in high school recruiting with this class and the next class than they have in the past. So I think this will be a fun team. Again, it kind of comes down to how quickly can they gel. The Big 12 is an absolute murderer's row. Baylor's going to be good. Houston's going to be great again. Arizona's going to be really solid. There's some teams like K-State, Iowa State that think they're loading back up to be back in the mix when we talk about Big 12 title type stuff. So, yeah, what's it going to look like when this rotation comes together? And then my biggest frustration with TCU styles of play as of late is when they just don't shoot the ball well. And honestly, the last few years, they haven't been really great on defense either, which is surprising because that's what Jamie kind of hangs his hat on. And they've gone to this really fast pace. They want to push the tempo. They want to be elite at rebounding. And I know in a preseason press conference, he said they feel like they can have the best offensive rebounding team in the country, which is great. It also kind of makes me think, do you feel like you're going to miss a lot of shots and give your guys opportunities? I hope not. They're pretty thin in the front court. I mean, it's really like it's Ernest Udeh Jr. and then Malik Diallo, the freshman from Utah, and Adam Stewart, who's coming in from Utah as well. So if Ernest gets in foul trouble, which is something he struggled with a lot last year, you don't have a bunch of size. So I'm not sure if the move would be like, all right, we're going to have to go small at times and just try to really win in the fast break game and hope that we can hold up on the boards enough to make it happen. We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited about this group. I'm also super excited about the women's team. Haley Van Lith, Maddie Shear, Sedona Prince, and Madison Connor coming back after showing some promise last year. They play South Carolina, number 1 team in the country, at Dickies Arena in non-conference play. They also play NC State, who's been really good in the ACC the last few seasons, so they're not ducking competition. We'll get a great picture of who they're going to be. And Big 12 women's basketball, I mean, with Oklahoma, who won the league the last couple seasons, leaving, and Texas leaving as well, it feels more wide open. You know, obviously Baylor's still there, but Kim Mulkey is gone. So that's a little bit of a different dynamic. Arizona's coming in. They've been very solid in women's hoops for a while. But, yeah, hardwood. We're going to have coverage in segment 3. And then, as I said, I'll try to do some post-game reaction shows throughout the season as well. So the best thing to do is just subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. On the post-game show on Sunday, and then we'll be back again on Monday, breaking down another week of coverage as TCU will be getting ready for a home game against Texas Tech. Another big one coming up this week. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever it is you get your podcast.